Not every woman deserves your time, energy, or loyalty. Here's how to spot the ones who don't. Some women elevate you, they inspire growth, fuel your purpose, and stand beside you as partners in the truest sense. Others? They're emotional vampires in disguise. Slowly, skillfully, they drain you your focus, your confidence, your peace, all while smiling sweetly and convincing you it's love. The most dangerous ones don't announce themselves. They don't carry red flags, they wear high heels, charm, and calculated vulnerability. They enter your life like a gift and exit like a wrecking ball. You'll mistake their manipulation for passion, their chaos for excitement, their toxicity for chemistry. Let's be brutally honest, a low-value woman isn't just a bad match, she's a threat to your mission, your mental clarity, and your future. So how do you identify her before she derails you? Below are the 6 undeniable signs that scream, walk away now. Because a real man doesn't negotiate with emotional terrorists, he recognizes them and removes himself from the battlefield. 1. She's a chaos addict, drama is her drug. A woman like this can't function without turmoil. If life is peaceful, she'll invent a crisis, a jealous ex suddenly texting, a coworker flirting with you, a forgotten anniversary that wasn't actually forgotten. Her tactics. Gaslighting, you're overreacting, I never said that. Victim playing, I guess I just care more than you do. Withholding affection, silent treatment for minor disagreements. Why it's toxic. She conditions you to associate love with anxiety. Over time, you'll mistake emotional roller coasters for intensity, and healthy relationships will feel boring. High-value alternative. A secure woman fosters calm. She communicates directly, values resolution over winning, and doesn't weaponize your emotions. 2. She's a validation junkie, her ego is bottomless. No amount of your attention will ever be enough. She craves external validation like oxygen, social media likes, constant male attention, and a never-ending stream of reassurance. Her self-worth is largely built on how others perceive her, and as a result, she is constantly seeking external validation to feel valued. Your attention is only temporary relief, and it will never fill the void of her insatiable need for affirmation. Red flags. Posts thirst traps while in a relationship. She posts seductive or attention-grabbing photos even while in a committed relationship, saying things like, "It's just a photo, why are you insecure?" When confronted, she deflects and minimizes your feelings, showing no real consideration for how her actions affect you. Flirts harmlessly with others. She constantly flirts with people outside the relationship, brushing it off with phrases like, "He's just a friend," or "You're overreacting." Her need for attention from others takes priority over respecting your boundaries. Punishes you for setting boundaries. When you try to set clear, reasonable boundaries in the relationship, she reacts with manipulation, calling you controlling or possessive, saying things like, "You're just insecure," or "You don't trust me." The idea that her actions are the problem is never entertained. The hard truth. If she needs an audience to feel valuable, she'll always prioritize strangers over you. The more attention she gets from the outside world, the less she focuses on cultivating a real connection with you. Your emotional needs and desires become secondary to her craving for validation from others. High-value alternative. A confident woman derives self-worth internally. She doesn't require constant validation from external sources because she is already secure in who she is. She doesn't need the attention of other men because she's chosen you, and that choice is enough for her. A high-value woman builds a relationship on mutual respect, where both partners feel valued and appreciated without the need for constant outside approval. 3. She's the eternal victim. Nothing is ever her fault. It's never her responsibility. When things go wrong, she has a list of excuses ready. Lost my job. The boss hated me. Cheated. You weren't giving me enough attention. Broke. The system is rigged, and life is unfair. Every setback or misstep becomes an opportunity to shift the blame and avoid taking any personal responsibility for her actions. Instead of focusing on solutions, she's fixated on how the world or the people around her are the cause of her problems. Key traits. 0 accountability, she'll never own up to her mistakes. Her behavior is always someone else's fault. For example, if she lies, it's because you were too judgmental, or you pushed her to it. She'll twist the narrative to make you feel guilty, as if her actions are a direct result of your behavior. Weaponized guilt. When confronted about her shortcomings, she'll use guilt to manipulate you into excusing her actions. She might say things like, "After all I've done for you," or, "You should be grateful I'm even here," in an effort to distract you from her behavior and make you feel like you're the one in the wrong. Chronic irresponsibility. Whether it's maxing out credit cards, making impulsive life choices, or never taking care of important responsibilities, she often behaves recklessly. Her lack of accountability leads to continual cycles of crises that she expects others to fix or excuse. Why it's dangerous. A woman who refuses to take responsibility for her actions will eventually turn you into her scapegoat. Every mistake she makes becomes your fault, and you'll find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do. Over time, this creates a toxic dynamic where your sense of self-worth and perspective gets warped, and you feel trapped in a relationship based on manipulation. High-value alternative. A mature woman owns her actions. She doesn't look for excuses or try to shift the blame onto others. When things go wrong, she acknowledges her mistakes and works to fix them rather than pointing fingers. This level of emotional maturity not only builds trust and respect but also creates a healthy, supportive environment where both partners are accountable and grow together. 4. She's a master manipulator. Guilt is her weapon. She doesn't argue the way normal people do. Instead, she manipulates. She uses emotional tactics that are difficult to pin down, like passive-aggressive behavior, guilt-tripping, and subtle emotional blackmail. Her goal is never resolution or compromise, it's control. She uses silent treatments, sighs, cold shoulders, and statements like, "Fine, do what you want," to make you feel like you are walking on eggshells. She programs you over time to fear her displeasure and make you feel that her needs and feelings should always come first. Manipulation tactics. The cold shoulder. When she's upset, she won't confront the issue directly. Instead, she'll give you the silent treatment or act distant. She knows that you'll begin to feel uneasy, like you've done something wrong even though you haven't. This behavior puts the power in her hands. By withholding attention or affection, she forces you to beg for her approval or seek her forgiveness for offenses you might not have even committed. Subtle guilt tripping. She has a way of making you feel like a terrible person, even when you've done nothing wrong. This can be as simple as saying, "I guess I'll just be alone tonight," when you make plans with your friends, or, "Go ahead, I'll just stay home and wait for you to come back," as if your time and attention are a limited commodity that she's entitled to. She makes her unhappiness your responsibility, and the more you give in, the more you are trained to anticipate her reactions before you act. Playing the victim. She frequently uses guilt as a weapon, making you feel sorry for her, no matter what. For instance, when you set boundaries, she might respond with, "I guess I care more about this relationship than you do," or, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't do this to me." This positions her as the martyr and you as the villain. It's a form of emotional manipulation that shifts the focus from her behavior to your actions. She never takes responsibility for her emotions and instead uses them to get her way. Examples of manipulative behavior. Making plans with friends. You make plans with your friends, and she responds with, "Fine, I guess you'd rather hang out with them than with me." This puts you in a difficult position because now you're feeling guilty for something you shouldn't have to feel bad about. You end up canceling plans or rushing through them, and she gets what she wanted, your attention and focus. Setting boundaries. You set a reasonable boundary in the relationship, like needing personal space or time for yourself. Instead of respecting that, she accuses you of not caring enough about the relationship or about her emotional needs. Statements like, "I guess I care more about this relationship than you do," are designed to make you question your commitment and prioritize her over your own well-being. Emotional blackmail. A more insidious form of manipulation is when she uses your love or kindness as a way to control you. She might say things like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't do this," implying that your actions are causing her distress and putting the relationship at risk. This manipulative tactic makes it feel like you have no choice but to give in to her demands in order to keep the peace or protect her feelings. The trap. Each time you give in to her manipulation, you reinforce the cycle. The more you surrender to her guilt-tripping behavior, the more she learns that guilt is an effective tool for control. Eventually, you'll find yourself second-guessing every decision you make, wondering whether she'll be upset or hurt by it. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where her emotional well-being becomes your responsibility, and your own needs and desires are constantly put on the back burner. You'll start to feel like walking on eggshells, afraid to make any decision that might lead to her displeasure. The fear of confrontation and guilt for having your own life and boundaries makes you less assertive and more accommodating, even when you shouldn't be. Over time, this emotional manipulation erodes your self-confidence and autonomy. The hard truth. Guilt manipulation is a dangerous form of control that prevents healthy communication and mutual respect. It reduces a relationship to a transactional exchange where every decision you make is weighed against how it will impact her emotions. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough to satisfy her insatiable need for validation and control. The more you submit to this manipulation, the more trapped you become in a cycle of guilt and emotional dependence. High-value alternative. A woman with emotional maturity and security expresses her needs directly. She doesn't play mind games or try to manipulate you into compliance. If she's upset, she communicates it clearly and respectfully, without resorting to passive-aggressive behavior. There are no hidden agendas, no emotional blackmail, and no guilt-tripping. A secure woman understands that both partners in a relationship deserve to have their needs and emotions respected, and she doesn't expect you to read her mind or constantly guess what will make her happy. She values open communication, honesty, and mutual understanding. She knows that in order to maintain a healthy relationship, both partners must be able to express themselves freely without fear of manipulation or retribution. In a relationship with a high-value woman, you feel respected, seen, and heard, and you don't have to live in constant fear of her emotional responses. 5. She's future-proof, no goals, no growth. While you're working hard to build a future, she's drifting through life with no clear direction or purpose. She lacks ambition and has no long-term vision for her career, finances, health, or personal growth. She floats from one day to the next, saying things like, "I'll figure it out later, I don't have time right now," or "Why stress about it? We only live once." She has an unhealthy relationship with responsibility and tends to put off important life decisions in favor of immediate gratification. Warning signs of a lack of ambition. Financial irresponsibility. She spends money impulsively on luxuries, even though she has no savings or financial plan for the future. Whether it's buying the latest fashion trends, dining out at expensive restaurants, or splurging on random gadgets, she constantly prioritizes short-term pleasures over long-term security. The phrase, "YOLO, you only live once," becomes her mantra as she spends without considering the future. This reckless behavior often extends to other areas of her life, where she avoids making responsible choices that will benefit her down the road. Job hopping and career insecurity. She switches jobs frequently, blaming her employers or coworkers for not appreciating her, instead of looking at her own work ethic or contribution. "No one understands me," she says, or "I'm just too good for this place," making it seem like the problem is external when, in reality, she might not be putting in the effort to truly grow in her career. This cycle of job hopping prevents her from developing any expertise or building a stable career path, leaving her in a perpetual state of uncertainty. Mocking discipline and growth. When you try to implement discipline in your own life, whether it's getting fit, pursuing further education, or saving money, she mocks you. "Why so serious?" she might say, belittling your ambition or dismissing your efforts as unimportant. She may view your goals as boring or too much work, making you feel like you're wasting your time on things that don't matter. This attitude shows her lack of vision and desire for self-improvement. The reality of no growth. A partner who has no direction or ambition can become a significant weight in your life. While you're striving to build a secure and successful future, she may be pulling you down with her lack of goals and drive. This lack of personal growth can also cause her to become resentful or jealous of your progress. If she's not putting in the effort to improve her own life, she may project her insecurities onto you, resenting your success or complaining about your focus on the future. The impact on you. If she won't take her own life seriously, she may inadvertently sabotage yours. She might discourage you from pursuing your goals, complain about the time you invest in work or personal growth, or convince you to prioritize instant gratification over long-term planning. Over time, you might start to lose focus on your own dreams, becoming complacent in the relationship because you're constantly trying to accommodate her lack of ambition. This is dangerous because relationships should be a partnership where both individuals lift each other up and encourage growth. If one person is constantly dragging their feet, it can create a toxic imbalance where the more driven partner feels isolated or unsupported in their ambitions. High-value alternative. A high-value woman is someone who has a clear sense of direction and purpose in life. She sets goals, works hard to achieve them, and has the discipline to follow through. She's not only concerned about her own growth but also supportive of yours. A woman with vision aligns with your ambitions, encouraging you to strive for more while also working toward her own personal development. She doesn't shy away from hard work, responsibility, or making sacrifices for the future. Whether it's building a career, saving money, or pursuing her passions, she understands the value of long-term investment. This makes her an asset in the relationship, as she's constantly evolving and pushing herself to be better, and she'll inspire you to do the same. A woman with goals and vision doesn't just bring her ambition to the table, she actively contributes to the shared vision of the future that you both are building together. In her, you find a partner who is equally invested in the success of both of you, and this creates a dynamic where both partners can flourish. 6. She fights masculinity instead of respecting it. In relationships, balance and respect for both partners' roles are crucial. But when a woman doesn't understand the value of masculinity, or worse, mistakes it for something negative, problems arise. She confuses leadership with toxic masculinity, protection with patriarchy, and setting healthy boundaries with control. This misunderstanding often leads to constant tension, frustration, and resentment. How it shows. You lead, stop being so dominant. When you step into your role as the leader, guiding the direction of the relationship or making decisions that benefit both partners, she might react by accusing you of being overbearing or domineering. For example, if you suggest plans for the weekend or take charge of a situation that requires a decision, she could say things like, "Why do you always have to be so dominant?" or "Why can't you just let me decide?" In these moments, she misunderstands your leadership role, associating it with control rather than the protective and constructive guidance it is meant to be. Her objections are often rooted in an oversimplified and skewed interpretation of what masculinity is supposed to represent. Instead of seeing leadership as a sign of strength, she might view it as a threat to her independence. Rather than fostering teamwork, she seeks equality in decision-making, but this can lead to friction when her approach doesn't align with the balance you envision for the relationship. You provide, I don't need a man. Another example of this dynamic is when you fulfill your role as the provider, whether emotionally, financially, or physically, and she rejects it by saying, "I don't need a man." It's a phrase that expresses resistance to your contributions, often under the guise of feminist empowerment. While being independent and self-sufficient are valuable traits, the statement implies that she doesn't appreciate your role or the partnership you're offering. She may not recognize that being a provider is a shared responsibility in the relationship, and that you find fulfillment and purpose in supporting and protecting the woman you love. This resistance to masculine traits doesn't come from a place of empowerment but from a lack of understanding of the strength that lies in interdependence. By rejecting your efforts to contribute, she inadvertently undermines the foundation of mutual support and partnership. You set standards, you're so demanding. Setting standards, whether it's expectations for communication, behavior, or boundaries, is a healthy and necessary part of any relationship. Yet, when you express those standards, particularly when they're meant to protect your values or ensure respect, she may label them as being too high or demanding. For instance, if you ask for honesty, trust, or effort in the relationship, she might retort with something like, "You're so demanding," or "I'm not going to change for you." What's happening here is a clash between what you see as reasonable expectations and what she perceives as unreasonable demands. This dynamic stems from an unwillingness to embrace the role of a woman who complements her partner's leadership, instead opting for a stance where she feels forced to resist. Rather than appreciating standards as a tool for mutual growth, she sees them as a challenge to her autonomy. The irony. The irony in this situation is that, despite all her protests, she will often claim that she wants a strong man or a leader in the relationship. She'll fantasize about a man who is confident, assertive, and protective, but when he shows up and plays those roles, she rejects it. She desires strength, but when confronted with it, she perceives it as a threat to her own sense of autonomy. Instead of respecting your masculine energy, she resents it. This creates a contradiction that destabilizes the relationship. Her rhetoric may be filled with phrases like, "I need someone who can handle me," yet the reality is she needs someone who can affirm her sense of independence while being a strong protector and leader. When you embody that strength, she ends up feeling threatened, and the very things she says she desires are the things she resists. It creates a toxic cycle where your masculinity is constantly undermined, and your natural impulses to lead, protect, and provide are met with resistance rather than respect. The psychological underpinning. This type of dynamic often stems from a deeper, subconscious mistrust or misunderstanding of gender roles. She might have been influenced by cultural narratives that label traditional masculinity as toxic, where leadership is viewed as domineering, and protection is considered patronizing. This misalignment with traditional roles can be the result of past experiences, media influence, or even personal insecurities. Rather than being raised in an environment where masculine and feminine energies complement one another, she may have developed an aversion to certain aspects of masculinity that feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable to her. The hard truth. No matter how much you give, or how much you try to compromise, these dynamics will never truly change unless she consciously shifts her mindset. When she constantly fights against the expression of your masculinity, whether it's leadership, providing, or setting healthy standards, she's creating an environment that undermines the foundation of the relationship. As a man, you should never have to shrink or apologize for the natural, protective instincts that come with your masculinity. A relationship cannot thrive when one partner is constantly trying to suppress or challenge the essence of the other. If you're forced to choose between your masculinity and your relationship, it's a sign of imbalance and unhealthy dynamics. The right partner will cherish the masculine traits you bring to the table, not see them as a threat. This kind of conflict is unsustainable, and it can leave you questioning your worth and value as a man, which is incredibly damaging to your self-esteem. High-value alternative. A high-value woman cherishes and respects the strengths of her partner. She understands the importance of balance between masculine and feminine energies, and she embraces both her own femininity and your masculinity. She doesn't try to compete with you or diminish your leadership. Instead, she complements your strengths with her own, allowing both of you to thrive together. In this dynamic, she encourages you to lead while respecting the decisions you make, and she plays her role as an equal, not as an adversary. For example, she respects your ability to provide and protect, acknowledging that both partners should contribute in different but equally valuable ways. She understands that setting standards is not about controlling her but ensuring mutual respect and growth in the relationship. This creates a partnership that is rooted in trust, mutual support, and the recognition that both masculine and feminine qualities are valuable, not mutually exclusive. In a relationship with a high-value woman, you feel supported and understood. She doesn't resent your strength, she celebrates it. She doesn't seek to challenge your role but to partner with you in a way that allows both of you to express your true selves in a healthy, balanced dynamic. The relationship is a safe space where both partners can grow, contribute, and lead in their respective roles without fear of judgment or resentment. Final warning. These women, those who fight against your masculinity instead of respecting it, don't change, they replace. The moment you stop feeding their dysfunction and stop tolerating the manipulation, they will vanish and find someone else to drain. The cycle of resistance, control, and emotional pushback will only continue as long as you allow it. The moment you stop enabling their behavior, they will look for a new source to fuel their need for validation and power. Your move. Disengage. Disengage not out of anger or frustration, but out of self-respect. By staying in a relationship where your masculinity is constantly rejected, you diminish yourself. You cannot build a healthy relationship on the foundation of constant conflict and disrespect. Instead, move forward with confidence, knowing that the right woman will respect you for who you are and embrace the strengths you bring to the relationship. A strong, high-value woman will never ask you to sacrifice your core values and your identity for her comfort. She will challenge you to grow, support you when needed, and give you the freedom to be your authentic self. She won't force you to choose between peace and love, she will offer both. Stay sharp. Stay stoic. Never settle. In the end, the key is to never settle for a relationship that makes you compromise your self-worth, your values, or your identity. The right partner will meet you where you are, complement your strengths, and build a life together that reflects mutual respect, growth, and love. Stay true to yourself, and remember that settling for anything less than this isn't worth your time. A woman who understands and appreciates your masculinity, and who supports your goals and dreams, will create a foundation of mutual respect that leads to lasting happiness.